And welcome to the webinar series. We're bang on 2 o'clock, so we're just going to hold on just for another couple of minutes, if that's okay, for any late attendees. So we'll be back with you very shortly. If anybody has any pre-questions before you know what this is all about, then please feel free to pop them in the questions box. Okay, I can see a couple more people just logging in, so please bear with us for another minute or so. Okay. All right, we've just had another couple of people join, so yeah, I think it's about time to start. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to our webinar, and thanks for taking some time out of your busy diaries, especially this time of year, to come and attend this webinar. This is a series of webinars that we're doing following on from Infinigate's Cyberverse event. So I know some of you that are attending today have come along straight from there, so appreciate that and welcome. And we've also got some existing partners, so welcome to you guys too. My name is Donna Heath. I am the business unit manager at Infinigate for Extreme Networks, and on the line we also have Rob Wright. Rob is a contender for the world's longest job title, but for today we'll call him the Senior Manager of Sales Engineering. So welcome, Rob, and thanks for coming. So Rob's going to be presenting the evolution of Extreme Networks and where we are today, and then before moving on to Extreme Platform One. We're really excited at Infinigate about Extreme Platform One, and hopefully after Rob's presentation today, you will be too, and you'll be able to pass that enthusiasm on to your customers and see the value there. But before we move on to Rob's presentation, I'd like to go through some of the progression path that we use at Infinigate to help partners that are taking on new vendors. Rob, if you wouldn't mind popping on to the next slide. So when any new business takes on a new vendor, there's potentially a lot of heavy lifting to do. And we like to be able to help you get a good start in that. So we have a kind of a progression path. There's multiple steps to it, and you can dip in and out of this as you see fit. But we tend to like to start with aligning you to a sales specialist. Our sales specialist will come in and essentially sit down with you as a business and work out what your business strategy is, who your customers are, what your go-to-market is, and then kind of start aligning how we work with Extreme, and how that fits your business. We then will kind of come in and kick off, if you like, with your sales team. We'll do a sales activation day, so we'll maybe come in with an AI or an AE from Extreme that's aligned to your business and do some training, set some goals, maybe do some incentives. We can then go on and work with your marketing team to come up with a marketing plan. We can help you with some marketing development funds. We can create campaigns. We can do data enhancement. There's a whole plethora of things that we can do to help you on the marketing front. As and when you start getting prospects, we can again help organize things like breakfast briefings and executive roundtables where perhaps we'll get a speaker in from Extreme or from an existing Extreme customer to come along and talk to your prospects. We also do what we call a technical test flight. This is where we'll work with you and your end user prospects. We'll send them a free access point, and then along with our pre-sales, we'll do a 3-hour presentation on Extreme Platform 1. They'll get to keep the access point. They'll get to have a high level look at all the options that are available for them and be able to discuss a little bit more in depth what their particular challenges are that Extreme can help overcome. We're also able to assist with things like bid supports. So we'll work alongside yourselves and Extreme to get the price point right for the customer. Maybe your customer's looking at some leasing options or different payment types that they need. You know, you can come to us at Infinigate and we can assist with that. We've got a really strong back-end team, so we're really quick at turning around quotes and answering any queries that you might have. Our technical pre-sales team are there to help with things like developing a bill of materials. We can offer virtual site survey planning. We can talk to you about installation services, pre-staging of equipment and things like that. We're not looking to do this instead of you. We're looking to maybe assist you while you get going with Extreme, or perhaps you know, offer us services for now until you're up to speed, that kind of thing. We also have a demo pool, so we've got a bunch of access points and switches that your customers can use perhaps as a try before you buy, that kind of thing. Again, when we send these out, we like to have pre-sales time booked in for that, so that our engineers are there to help your end user customers along with your engineers to set up the system and make use of the time that they've got with it, rather than it sitting in their warehouse for a couple of weeks before then having to send it back to us. From a warehousing and stock perspective, we stock approximately $8 million worth of Extreme equipment across our UK and European warehousing. We have separate warehouse for doing things like bill and hold. So if you've got a large deployment that you're doing and perhaps you or the customer hasn't got space to store everything, we can have that in a secure section. That stock is yours and you call it off as and when required. And we can do things like virtual warehousing. Post sales, we have an operations portal where you can go in and log in and you can get information on your delivery times. If it's not next business day, for example, you'll be able to log in and it will show you exactly when your equipment is expected to be received. And then from your customer's perspective, we have a 24/7 help desk for Extreme, for them to come in if they've got any queries or questions or issues with kit. We've now got co-delivery in place. We've got 5 trained engineers on wireless, switching and fabric, so we're able to answer a whole bunch of questions for your end users and also back off any queries to Extreme that we're not able to handle ourselves. So that's obviously a very quick 10,000 view of what we can offer you as a partner. My email address is on the bottom there. If you have, or if any of this has sparked an interest and you want to come and explore some more, then please do drop me an email. You can drop questions in the question box if you need to, and we can answer them today. But yeah, that's essentially us in a nutshell. So please feel free to reach out on any further element. So following on from that, I think we now get into the more interesting part, and I'd like to hand over to Extreme's human in the loop, Rob Wright.
Helps if I unmute myself, Donna.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Donna, for that introduction, and thank you all for joining us this wintry afternoon, or wet and wintry afternoon. I can see there's some familiar organisations on here today, but also some that I'm not familiar with. So welcome to both of you types. And I just want to support what Donna said as well. I've worked quite closely with, I work quite closely with distribution as part of my team, but closely with Donna and the technical organization within Infinigate. And what we're going to talk about today and run through today, they've got individuals in there that are highly educated to help you through this as well. So always free to talk to myself or any member of my team, but also the highly skilled individuals within Infinigate as well. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Everyone's doing an AI presentation. I'm absolutely aware of that. And one thing that I've heard in the industry is a term a few months back now, and it's called AI washing. And really, AI washing it's almost like going back to the 2006, 2007 with Apple. Is I've got an app for that. It's now I've got an AI for that. And every vendor, whether it's in our environment with networking security or when it's cyber security or building management systems, whatever it is, everyone's got an AI story. And what I've found talking to a lot of our customers is that there's a lot of confusion in the market space and in the marketplace, sorry, and in the market in general. And also there's different approaches that each vertical are taking. Some verticals themselves are very quick to adopt early technology. Some other verticals are very conservative to adopt that technology. So really, one thing I think that's very different about our approach is how holistically we're approaching AI with our Extreme Platform One story. And also, it's the adoption rate of AI at the speed of what our customers want to adopt AI at. And really, we've kind of taken a step back at Extreme, and we've taken a look at what is it we're actually trying to solve, not just with AI, but with platformization and with everything that we've been doing over the last, well, over the last 5-6 years, in fact, since the acquisition of Aerohive back in 2019. So what we focus on maniacally as an organization is the simplification of networking and now security with zero trust in our portfolio, with the addition of AI as underpinning that simplicity of operations, simplicity of deployment, and like I say, simplicity for acquisition of portfolio, contract management, everything else as well. So I'm going to spend about the next 20-ish minutes running through the presentation, but then I'm going to use a use case to show you how AI can be applied on a day-to-day kind of operational basis. Ask questions in the chat. So I think, Donna, you'll probably be monitoring them in the background as well. And then we'll, and then, like I say, I wanted to finish up with a real world demo rather than just slideware. So the first thing I need to show is, try it again, is our legal disclaimer or safe harbor statement. Some of the things I'll talk about today, and maybe based on the questions that are asked by yourselves, could be forward-looking statements. So we just bear in mind that some of this I will be talking about. I will say when it's available, what's in beta, as I go through the discussions as well, and also talk about what it is we're trying to address. Okay, so I didn't come up with this great line. One of the guys in my team used it actually at a presentation, but I think it really does define what we are, what we as Extreme Networks, working closely with Infinigate and their ecosystem of solutions, we're trying to address complexity, because ultimately, what does that mean? So complexity is the enemy of innovation. There's no doubt about that. When things are highly complex, it's very hard to innovate with, especially in a technology environment. And if you look at some of the customers we have and some that I can talk about, a good real world example is over in the United States, we have a customer called Kroger, massive retailer. And one of their key issues was medication in their refrigerators going out of date. And it was literally costing them millions. But the complexity of their network environment didn't allow them to have the sensors they wanted in place to help support that. So that's a massive, large retailer. Then flip it to another kind of organization, completely different organization, and that would be somebody like Kick Sauber in Formula One, where their biggest issue is gathering massive volumes of data on a race day. But it was a complexity of their underlying architecture that made it difficult for them to resolve the problems that they had. And complexities also become a top priority as a challenge among IT leaders. In fact, we did some work with ZK Research, and they interviewed 600 IT leaders, and 80% of them said their networks are far more complex nowadays than they were even 2 years ago. So what's driving that complexity? Well, first is the proliferation of wireless. You know, pretty much outside of the security services and even in security services, this is happening a little bit now. Wireless is the medium to connect, but it's not just Wi-Fi, it's also the services that need to be provided. It's not just, as you will all know, it's not just laptops, tablets and smartphones that are connecting to Wi-Fi now, it's a whole raft of IoT. What this means from a networking perspective, and especially in some aging infrastructures, is the network needs to keep up with providing the services to deploy new services or new solutions across those services. So that again increases complexity. Now, if we can focus on simplifying that complexity, one of the things that we've absolutely targeted, for instance, is universal hardware. So we can deploy it in a traditional IP-based network or in a fabric network architecture. Universal hardware for access points as well. Again, we can deploy it on premises or within the cloud. So from a hardware perspective, we've started addressing that. And yourselves as partners, it means it's easier for you to understand our portfolio, to quote, and to ultimately sell more into your customer base. But then there's the operational complexity of running a network. And another thing that we need to be dealing with is a huge skills gap in the marketplace. There is an aging workforce in networking and IT, not so much in cybersecurity, but within networking itself. And a lot of the knowledge that our customers have is very, very tribal about their network. Like historically, they'll be using complex command line interfaces to build and troubleshoot networks. And that knowledge is built up on the environment over time. When those people leave and new people hopefully come in, if they can fill that skills gap, that is another issue that we've got to deal with. And that adds its own level of complexity. How do we educate the next generation of workforce? So there's many different areas to complexity, but ultimately this is what we're using AI partly to address. Oh, there we go, next slide. But we have a problem at the moment, and this is why I kind of titled this presentation as AI at the speed of trust. If any of you may recognize this, this is Gartner's technology adoption cycle, and there's been an absolute explosion of AI in the workplace, and not, like I say, in general day-to-day usage, as well as in networking, in cybersecurity. And the vendors are very much, including ourselves, you know, we're very much driving this message into the marketplace. AI is the new race between vendors, and you know, there's leapfrogging happening across all the different vendor environments. But ultimately, it's down to the adoption of our customers, and it's our customers who are going to adopt them. And I'll talk a moment about a very, very early adopter of technology, and then we can talk about those that, I hate the term personally, it sounds negative, but are laggards in technology adoption. And predominantly, that's based around how conservative those environments are. And also, it's regional as well. The UK is pretty good at early adoption of technology, but if you go out into kind of more Eastern Europe, you know, cloud's only really just starting to take off now, whereas it's very firmly established from a networking perspective, at least within the UK&I market. And if you think of a healthcare institute, they'll be very much between the technology trigger and the peak of inflated expectations, if you want to call it that. Whereas if you look at the organization we're going to talk about in a moment, they're very much hitting, I wouldn't say the plateau of productivity, but they're very much on that slope of enlightenment in how they adopt AI into their overall business processes. And so I'll talk about them right now. Oh, sorry, go back a second. There we go. So I'm talking about Formula One, okay? And Formula One is very early in adopting AI. In fact, they've adopted AI in a number of their processes for quite some time now. Most of it is based around performance and performance analytics, not just of the cars, but of the drivers themselves, and obviously all sorts of sensors. There's hundreds and hundreds of sensors on the car. And if you go back to 1977, it was the Renault Formula One team. They were the first to introduce turbos into cars, and it was all about providing more power, more speed, and higher acceleration with turbo lag, granted, to enable those cars to move faster. But now if you look at the rule sets that have changed between 1977 and today, they're much more strict for things like compliance, and there's a lot less scope for changing the car. So what can they do? They can analyze the data of the car, and in modern Formula One, that data can mean the difference between seconds or even milliseconds. What that means to them as a business is the difference between prize money, sponsorship, and we're talking, you know, tens and tens of millions, well, let's use pounds, we're in the UK, tens of millions of pounds from there. But they are very early in adopting that technology, and we've been sponsoring Stake F1 since February 2024, and they use our networking, our fabric networking, in their headquarters in Switzerland, but they also use us on trackside. And the interesting stat here as well is they transport well over a terabyte of data across that infrastructure every single race day and qualifying day. And they take that data and they do advanced analytics, monitoring, machine learning to ultimately drive performance optimization. So they really are using AI to optimize the performance of their cars and do very well. It'd be nice to have seen Stake in the top 5 and Nico Hülkenberg in the top 5, but you know, with the Audi acquisition, let's see where that may take them. The reason I was using that as an example, though, is most of our customers do not sit in this environment. Most of our customers are still defining what their AI processes and their AI policies are going to be. And this is where we can work closely with partners like yourselves, with Infinigate, to understand what those customer requirements are in the specific verticals that you're working in, and help you to see how they can adopt AI, and ultimately platformization as well. So just going back a little bit though, and it's the interesting thing around Extreme Networks is we've had a long orchestration journey. We were founded in '96, and in next year we'll be 3 decades old. And over those 3 decades, we have gone on a journey of understanding our customer requirements and how they can orchestrate, manage, and automate and operationalize their network by using orchestration platforms. So if I'm not going to talk about each one of these, but in 2003, when we launched Epicenter, there really was nothing else on the market at that time to help to manage. There was different vendors had different platforms, but this was really far and ahead of its time. That then transformed into something called Ridgeline, but then we made a very strategic acquisition in 2014 and acquired NetSite. Now NetSite we've developed over a number of years, and that has morphed into Extreme Cloud IQ site engine, and that's established in a huge amount of our customer base. And what site engine gave us is the ability to automate and to apply policy to networking, and then combine that with our overall fabric technology. I'm not going to talk massively about fabric today, you will see it as part of the demo, but it gave us the ability for a lot of visualization, automation, and policy enforcement. Then we entered into the cloud in 2019 as well, and we launched Extreme Cloud IQ. Extreme Cloud IQ has been incredibly successful, combined with our universal hardware platforms, and over the last 5 or 6 years. But while we're going through this process of optimizing the platforms we've had historically the same problem that a lot of our competitors have, and I'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a moment. But ultimately, it's multiple platforms to manage an environment. So from the ground up, we have been building Extreme Platform 1. But what is it that we've been trying to, the issue that we've been trying to overcome, talking about complexity? Because it's not just complexity of the network, it's complexity of managing the overall environment itself as well. So one of the key things that our customers are looking to achieve, again, this is based on skills gap and overall complexity of management of the network and licensing of the network, is they've got too many logins and too many different licenses to manage on the network. Now that's not just in a networking environment for licenses, it's also in managing their Microsoft licenses, their endpoint security licenses, their cyber security licenses. And in large organizations, this is a full-time job. And then you look at the net ops and the SecOps people that are managing these environments. They have to move between different screens and many different logins to gather information about the overall health of the network and the security of that network itself. And then, like I say, you add complex licensing on top of that. This is a real challenge for all of our, especially large organizations in the verticals that we work in. The second problem is, okay, we've got all of these different technologies, but now we want to integrate them all together. And there's two main issues that happen here, or three actually. First, manually, it takes a long time to integrate all of these different solutions. We're not even talking about adding AI to it yet. We're just talking about building ecosystems within our customers' environments. And that's where, as partners, you come in and add some really good value and help drive those developments within our customer base. But that takes long doing it manually, and it's also you can make critical mistakes as well, which can cause downtime in the network, which is obviously another major issue. So it's complex, it's expensive, and it takes a lot of manual time to do this. So we've got too many logins, we've got license management, and now we've got the complexity of building ecosystems with our partners, customers. And then now introduce AI. So all of our customers are sitting there going, okay, I've got an AI for my wireless, I've got an AI for my wired network, I've got my AI for my network access control. These are all siloed. How do I get them to all talk to each other? It becomes very complicated. And at the same time, because they're operating from different databases and pulling information from different environments within their ecosystem, it doesn't become as useful as the promise of AI said. So this is something that, like I said, we've looked at over a number of years. And the answer to this is take away the pain of all of those siloed logins and multiple logins, the siloed AIs, and also take away the pain of different systems being managed by different management platforms and bring it all into a single environment. Okay, so that's achieving the first challenge of too many logins and swivel chair operations, basically, for NetOps and SecOps people. So as you may know or should know, we have different parts of our portfolio, from switching, wireless, security, software-defined wide area network access. But in addition to this, we've also got, I've said already, Extreme Cloud IQ, Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine. So we've got these different hardware platforms that perform different functions. We've got different management platforms, or we have had, should I say, different management platforms to look after those technologies as well. So now what we've done is we've invested a lot of our R&D into building a platform that can manage all of these technologies. In addition to that, it can manage the life cycle of that hardware as well. So using AI, but also using the overall platform as well. You can look at when devices are going to become end of sale, end of service life, end of software maintenance. But in addition, one of the big issues that we've been addressing as well is contract and license management. And I'll go into more detail on that on the demo itself. So that's just the management platform piece. Now, if we start looking at the skill shortage or time and the cost of managing the network on a day-to-day basis, if we could talk to each one of these different components using natural language and gather information, that will be massively beneficial in reducing the operational overhead of managing these networks. And that's where having an AI core at the heart of all of this really comes into play. We do have customers that require different kinds of deployment as well, and this is where Cloud Continuum comes into play. So Cloud Continuum is the ability to deploy standard in the cloud, be it GCP, Azure, or AWS. We also have an on-premise capability, which is called Cloud Edge, which is on-premise compute and storage to run Extreme Platform One. Where we're seeing the most adoption for this will be in the security services, where some of it is obvious, but also obviously data sovereignty as well. And also some of our managed service provider partners themselves wish to run it within their own environment to offer those services down to their end customers. So we built this AI core for management, for security, and day-to-day operations. So if we look at the range of AI capabilities as it stands today, there's a lot more to come. We should be making some announcements in our Q3, but Q1 next calendar year. But if we break it down to 3 key areas of where we're driving AI as it stands today. If we start at the top middle here, we've got AI Expert. AI Expert is a conversational AI that allows you to talk to the network, in essence, to pull down real-time data. I'll show that as part of the demo as well. But also, we can talk to our whole documentation base as well. We've got around 300,000 documents that we can talk to. And where that's really beneficial for our customers is in having bridging that skills gap and that knowledge gap that I talked about earlier. So let's say you've got an early in career engineer that's joined one of our customers' environments, could be in healthcare, could be in education, and they have a Fabric deployment and they need to learn Fabric. Historically, what you would do there is send that individual on a 5-day Fabric training course. What that individual can now do is actually talk to the AI and say, teach me about Fabric. Explain Fabric to me in very simple layman's terms, and then it can literally talk to our knowledge base and they can pull information to understand how their architecture works, and then use the platform to understand the underlying architecture. What that does is it reduces that time to learning massively for those particular individuals. On the other flip side of this as well, if you're running NetOps for your customers on behalf of your customers, or your customers are running NetOps themselves, if they're of that size where they have a NetOps and SecOps team, they can have instant access to information around the health of the network and how the network's operating. Again, I'll show that as part of the demo, just keep an eye on time. Now, also, management level within our customer base may want to have reports or information so they can see what's going on the network on a day-to-day basis. This is where the AI canvas can give us a lot more detailed information that can be put into reporting and instant at a glance give you information. The example here on the AI canvas is basically a pie chart showing the deployment of access points and what access points are in their network. So that can be used as a quick report, for example, to say, I need to upgrade to Wi-Fi 7. What access points have I got in my network? Oh, I can see 28% of my APs are AP305Cs. They're the ones I'll need to replace. The rest are okay, as an example. And then this is where the big leap forwards happening within the AI world, within networking and security vendors and vendors in IT in general, is AI agents or agentic AI. This is where agents can be on 24/7, 365, monitoring the overall health of the network, and can sit there and gather information to report on things that occur within the network. Could be a service down situation, could be a service impaired situation. The first AI agent we've just finished our beta program on actually is our service agent, and that has the ability to talk to the agent, go out to the network environment itself and say, for example, I'm seeing coverage issues in a specific building. Can you go away and analyze what that could possibly look like? And then the agent can go off, do the analysis, come back and say, you may have VLAN mismatches, or you've got too many clients sitting in this certain environment, or I'm seeing PoE issues on those specific APs, or whatever it can be. Then it can provide knowledge to be able to resolve the problem, or actually take action to resolve the problem. Now, this is what HCITL stands for, is human in the loop. I was at a presentation recently over in Eastern Europe, and it's about 120 customers in the room. And the question that I asked is, how many of you use ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your favorite conversational AI is? And everyone put their hands up. I said, how many of you in the room would want an AI to manage and autonomize your network every single day? Every single hand went down. And that's obviously the case because there needs to be a trust element before AI can be implemented for automation. And that's why with our agentic AI, everything will be a human in the loop. So ultimately, what is it that we're trying to do for our customer base? The first thing is reduce manual effort, reduce the time it takes to troubleshoot, reduce the time it takes to understand what's going on in the network, and also reduce the time it takes to learn and understand what that network's doing. A key area is reducing time to innocence. As you all know, when there's an issue with an application, the first thing is, oh, there's a problem with my wireless. There's a problem with my network. So we're reducing that time to innocence by introducing conversational and agentic AI, and reducing that time to resolving and fixing a problem. ultimately taking down what can be hours or days sometimes, even down into minutes. And as I've stated earlier, reducing that learning curve for our customers so they can understand the technology, but ultimately to focus on what they want to do, which is innovation and driving their organization forward. This ultimately saves time and saves money. Right, I'm conscious that I've only got around 20 minutes left as well. So an interesting comment I wanted to add here, because we can sit here as a vendor and talk about how wonderful we are, but at our recent Connect event in Paris, we actually had a conversation on stage and a panel on stage with this great guy, Eduardo Kastner. He's the Chief Data and AI Officer for Microsoft. And I mentioned AI washing at the start of this presentation, but he made the statement that he hasn't seen anybody else in the hardware industry look at AI so holistically by building that core that we built out that goes across our wired, wireless, SD-WAN, security, contracts, licensing, and lifecycle management. We've taken that approach by bringing it into a single AI core that can address all of those different areas. So I wanted to talk about just quickly high level. This is in the public domain. There's some sound bites out there. There's also a case study as well. But I wanted to go back to what I said earlier, where I talked about our orchestration journey. So the West Suffolk NHS Foundation Trust are an existing customer of ours. They've been with us for a number of years, but they really wanted to start adopting the benefits of platformization and AI in general. They were an Extreme Cloud IQ customer. They had our Wi-Fi network across their entire estate, and they wanted to move out to start looking at the benefits of platformization. So it literally took them a case of applying the right level of licensing. We can talk about that separately offline as well. And then the installation of the platform itself, because Extreme Platform 1 it's not a new product that replaces what we have. It is an upgrade on what we've got existing, and will ultimately, over the time scale of the customer, replace Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine. So as of our February release, for example, we will have pretty much full parity in functionality from Extreme Cloud IQ within Extreme Platform 1. And so they've gone through that journey, and it took them minutes just to migrate up to it. And they're starting to see the benefits today with talk to network learning, and they're beginning to go down their AI journey. As I said, it's an adoption of AI at the speed of trust. But what's useful for yourselves as our partners? So there's a lot of customers out there as well, either existing Extreme Networks customers or customers that are looking for a change, and they're looking to go down a route of how can I adopt AI into my environment, and how will platformization help me as a customer? And this is where we can work very closely with yourselves as partners to prepare those customers ready to move into that platformization and AI era by working closely with our AEs, our SE organization, working closely with Infinigate themselves, with their account managers and their technical teams as well, and to understand how those customers can go on this journey, but also how they can actually receive the benefits and not just move to AI, but prepare them for AI readiness. And then once we have established relationships with those customers and hopefully won some opportunities as well, this is where our partners can come in and start optimizing the effectiveness ultimately of what Extreme Platform 1 can deliver. And together we can work very closely to drive that adoption up in our mutual customer base. Ultimately, what it is we're trying to do is overcome that complexity by reducing the manual efforts that go into managing these networks on a day-to-day basis, reducing the time it takes to troubleshoot and prove innocence and provide remediation to issues, and enable that learning curve to be reduced by using AI on a day-to-day basis. Okay, I'm going to move over to a brief demo as well. I'm conscious, like I said, we've got 20 minutes left, but hopefully it'll only be another 10 minutes or so, and you'll be able to get an idea of what we're doing with Extreme Platform 1. But Donna, I'm just going to pause for a second. I've not seen if there's been any questions in the chat at all, if anything's popped up there before I move into the demo.
No, Rob, at the moment we don't have any questions, but I know one thing for sure. I don't know any network manager that doesn't dread the call coming in saying the Wi-Fi isn't working,
Yeah.
you know, and the plethora of things that could be behind that statement. So, you know, I think having the AI agents, just for that alone, it is going to be worth its weight in gold.
Can you imagine? And there's a call coming in, and oh, the Wi-Fi, I'm having problems with my Wi-Fi over here, and the hours it can take to prove its innocence, or the minutes with AI and platformization that could take instead. It's this is, you know, this is real world stuff here as well.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That alone.
Thank you. Right, so I'm just going to do this is a demo I built together. You'll have to bear with me with some artistic license. There's some stuff I've had to pre-do, otherwise it would have taken some time, but I will explain that while I go through the demo. But let's look at this as a real world use case. So we've got a large university, and they're an existing Fabric and Wi-Fi customer of ours. I built this around our demo suite, our Extreme Networks demo suite. So they're an existing Fabric and Wi-Fi customer, and they have a driver to improve student and staff safety. So that's their business requirement. And the CIO has come to the IT director and subsequently the NetOps and SecOps teams, which are typically very small teams. There's one university I'm dealing with at the moment. They've got 45,000 students, and from a NetOps and SecOps perspective, they're running it with 3 people. They've asked them to do an investigation and subsequently a deployment of a future-proof CCTV and security system into their environment. So what do they need to do? First of all is check the readiness of the physical network. So it's CCTV, it's connected to the network as an IoT solution. Ultimately, we need to know that, have I got the PoE requirements and capabilities across my environment to be able to support that CCTV deployment? Then it's a critical, highly available solution. So the first thing we need to do is that layer of my network capable for redundancy? Does it have, for example, backup power supplies in case of issues? Are my firmware revisions up to date? So that's the networking side of the requirement. And then there's the contracts and services side of the requirement as well. Are there any contracts that require renewals in the project timeframe? For example, this deployment will take 2 months over the summer, July and August. Are any of my contracts going to need to be renewed? And then once the deployment's been put in place by valued partners like yourselves, can we check the services are available? Can we check everything's where it needs to be? So that's the demo I'm going to be doing right now. I'm just going to pause my screen and move over to my application. Donna, I just wanted to check, can you see the Platform One screen?
If I knew what it looked like, I might be able to answer that. But yes, it looks like it. I've got workspaces and AI canvas on the left, and then some text underneath it.
Right, let me show that. So let me just move this to the side for a second. So this isn't going to be a step through of Platform One, because I don't think each of you have got another 5 hours to go through all the feature sets. What I wanted to do is actually show you that CCTV readiness requirement and how we could do this using Extreme Platform One, predominantly focused on AI. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you look at this question, this has a huge amount of data and variables it needs to collect that would take a long time for a network administrator to go out and gather that information. I've blown up the screen. We're at about 150%, so it's good for a demo. So if it looks cluttered, that's the reason why. But within Platform One, I've gone to the AI. There's already an established Fabric network, and I've said I'm looking to roll out a CCTV system across my headquarters building location. Each camera needs 30 watts PoE to operate. Can you let me know which switches across that location supports 30 watts and can support 2 cameras per switch? Can you also let me know the current available PoE budgets on the switches? So basically what we're doing here is we're saying, are my switches on my network up to scratch to support these CCTV cameras? You could say, is the bandwidth available to me? You could say, have I got the services available? But for the sake of brevity, I've kept it simple to this. So the answer I've got is I currently don't have the capability to answer this question. Okay, so what have we done to enhance that? We've got an option here called Think It Through. What Think It Through will do is it will go in and talk, and it will actually go very deeply into the architecture that we have built around the AI, which I'm happy to talk to your engineers with at some point as well separately. And it will go out and gather the required data and information it needs to answer that very, very complex question. However, it takes time. To run that particular question across through Think It Through, I measured it earlier, it was around 4.5 minutes. So I've already run it. So here's one I prepared earlier in essence. But what I can do is do something called show reasoning. I'm not going to go through this in a massive amount of detail, but basically this will step through exactly what the AI is doing to pull this information together. So without going through it in detail, it will create a plan. That plan will have a number of steps, which will be analyze the PoE availability in the switches, retrieve the current budget of those switches and other information. So ultimately what it's doing now is it's going off, it's using API calls, it's using database information, and it's extrapolating the relevant information from all of those devices to basically say, here are the devices that are capable of supporting those 2 cameras per switch, and I know they've got 60 watts of availability each. So if I scroll down here, can they support 2 switches? I haven't told it it needs 60 watts of PoE. By saying it needs 2 cameras, the AI is determined it can do. And then it's listed out all the switches that are capable of supporting that PoE. And then the next thing is I've said, okay, here's my list of switches that can support PoE. So from there, you can determine which ones can't. Then I said, can you now check all of those switches and let me know which of these switches has power supply issues or are missing a power supply? The reason I've asked that question is I'm determining the availability or the redundancy of that access switch to make sure if a power supply fails, we'll continue operating for this critical application. So then it's come back and it's told me which switches have power supply issues or missing a power supply. And then I've asked it for that data in a chart. So it's broken it down into an easier to view chart. So now this is where I'm saying AI at the speed of trust. Do I really believe that this is giving me the right level of information? So I can select a switch. I'll copy, oh, I lost my mouse. I'll copy that device name. I could use MAC address and IP address and other information. I'm just going to go and just double check. Move the AI out of the way for a second. I'll go into wired. Again, this is not an overall platform 1 demonstration, but I'm showing you some of the capabilities now. I'll search for that device. I'll open that device up. Again, and I can see, oh, we've actually had a failure on it. That's changed from this morning. So we've had a failed power supply since this morning. Okay, or the power supply 2 is not present. Okay, I'll look into that. Like I said, this is on our demo suite. So now what I've got is a list of devices that shows me where I need to add power supplies in. So this is where, working as a partner, whether you're managing this service on behalf of the customer or the customer's now coming and you're working closely with them on the project itself, you can then say, okay, for these switches, I need power supplies. I could ask the AI now, which power supplies do I need for each one of these switches and the model number that I need to ensure they've got redundancy. I haven't done that again for the sake of brevity. Okay, that was a specific location. And then, okay, so we've looked at the devices we've got. We've looked at the PoE budget. Okay, so now we know which power supplies to replace, which devices can support that CCTV environment. And now procurement are now getting involved for the customer and going, okay, now we need to look at the services contracts that we've got in place, and are those services contracts up to date, or will they expire in the time it takes to roll out the project? So on this demo suite, we have a lot of expired contracts, and that's legacy, but it's also there to be able to demonstrate that we've got those expired contracts. For example, we've got one on here, which is a pilot license contract that expired back in 2023. So I've got a list of all of those contracts, when they've expired, but also when they're going to expire as well. So for example, this one is, and we can talk about having multiple licenses from pilot and Extreme Platform 1 licenses, but as we can see, we've got a standard Extreme Platform 1 license that's got a contract expiry date of 2026. So I've asked for it to give it to me in a bar graph. It can't, because I'm using Think It Through. This is where we can't use AI Canvas for this. But I've then turned off reasoning, and then I can provide different contract expiry. We see 4 are active, we've got 1 cancelled, and a whole raft that have expired. Now what we can do is actually do further analysis and go into subscriptions and licenses and contracts, and then the customer can go, okay, in May, for example, I will need to renew this service contract, and they can contact yourselves as a partner to get that service contract renewed. Or again, if you're managing this for a partner perspective, you can come to us directly for the customer. Okay, so we've determined that the network's capable, we've determined that the environment's okay, we've added in the new power supplies. Then yourselves as a partner working closely with the customer, you've gone and helped them deploy that whole CCTV system that they've got in place. So all of that conversation I've just had has all been through AI. I haven't had to jump through the system at all. I haven't had to go into individual devices to determine what's capable of supporting an extra power supply, what doesn't have one, what does have one. So now we've deployed that CCTV system. What I do need to do, is determine if that service is up and if that service is available and working. So what we can see here, I'll zoom in just a little bit more, is imagine this is the core infrastructure of this university itself. You deployed all of the cameras. The network has picked up those cameras there. It's all done dynamically via Fabric Connect. So for example, we know that we've got 4 cameras connected to this device, and I can see how they're connected to this switch. These are Axis cameras. We have an ecosystem relationship with Axis, for example. They can do Fabric attach and connect directly into the Fabric. So I can see that the cameras are connected, that they're up. And then if I go over here, I can see we've got some more cameras connected to this device. What I want to do though is go, is my service actually up? And I want to have visibility of that service. And for any of you that have customers that use Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine, this is something we created directly into Extreme Platform 1. How am I doing for time? Right, I'm gonna do this very quickly. So what I can do now is look at that device and look at the other end of the network. Select that endpoint, look at my services, and I can see that the service is, it's taking the time. There we go. So I can see that there is, again, this I have expanded this screen so for better visibility. We can see that there's an active service between those 2 endpoints that's helped supporting that CCTV camera. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing there. Okay, so Donna, quick check if I stop sharing that screen now.
No, you're still on it.
Am I? Okay.
Are you hoping to get back to your webinar, to the presentation?
It was just, I just wanted to pause it now for, there we go.
Okay.
Q&A, the last 5 minutes.
Okay, so we've got a question that's come in, and I quite like this one, to be honest. It's around what are the most exciting features in the next 12 to 18 months that customers have got to look forward to?
That's always a dangerous question, that one actually as well. The interest
There's
there.
the safe harbour statement.
Yeah. Go back to safe harbor statement. No, there's. Okay, I'll answer this a different way as well. There is something in the AI community, or sorry, technically within AI at the moment, which is called MCP, which is Model Context Protocol. I would very much start looking into what that means, and at a very, very high level, I can't give much away at the moment. We're in a development phase, but at a very high level, go and look at MCP and what it means in AI, and it's a standardized ecosystem of how agentic AIs can and will communicate with each other. I think that's probably the best answer I can give there, Donna, as well. It's a very, very interesting environment, and it's right across the vendor market in any kind of technology area. MCP is something to look into as well. It's how the future of AI will communicate with each other.
I'm going to pop that into ChatGPT right now. See what it comes up with. Right, that's it in terms of questions, Rob. So unless you've anything else to say, then I think it's time to wrap the webinar up.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. Thank you everyone who joined as well. It's I know there was a lot in there as well around AI. Hopefully you'll understand that, you know, we are on that journey with our customers. It's our customers first, and they have the flexibility of adopting AI and platformization at their speed. That's the key thing here as well. You know, we're not forcing it, and we have the current platforms today, including platform one, absolutely, that can take them on that journey over at their pace and at their level of trust. I think that's the closing statement I'd like to make there.
Perfect. All right, well, it just leaves me to say thank you once again to everybody that's attended the webinar, and a huge thank you to Rob for your presentation today. It's been very interesting. Thank you so much, everybody, and yeah, please reach out to either one of us if you have anything you need to discuss further.
Thank you.